welcome to Real Estate Real Talk. My name is LaTanya Button, and joining me today, as always, is Haley Bauer here in Bryan College Station, the heart of Aggieland. So join us as we discuss closing costs. The purpose of this podcast is to help educate you on how the different real estate processes work, as well as equip you as the buyer or seller to ask great questions to your agent. Thanks for joining us. So let's get started. We will be discussing closing costs today. So Haley, let's talk about closing costs. What are closing costs and why is this an important topic to discuss?
So there's a common misconception with buyers, especially first-time home buyers. I'd say a lot of the time they think they're only supposed to bring their down payment to the closing table in order to purchase a home. But unfortunately, that's just not the case.
Right. So they're saving for the down payment and they're ready to take that next step to purchase a home. And then they realize, wait, there's more money that I need.
Right. And if you're the buyer and you're not involving a lender, so you're a cash buyer, you will have some closing costs, but they're not like, having a lender involved.
Right.
So they're roughly 3% of the sales price. And depending on the lender that you choose, they can vary. And so that's why it's really important to shop lenders and figure out exactly what kind of closing costs you're looking at. So for example, a few weeks ago, I had a VA buyer who was trying to figure out exactly how much, they're looking at for closing costs. I got 3 quotes for them from 3 different lenders, and those amounts varied. So they were looking at a home in the $175,000 price range, and the closing cost quotes we got varied from $5,600 to $6,100 to even $6,700. So let's break this down.
Right. So we have escrow and prepaid interest, origination fees, lender fees. This is the one that's going to vary a lot. So some have a flat fee and others don't.
Right.
And appraisal fee, credit report, flood certification, lender attorney fees, closing escrow fees.
Right. And then there's even lender title insurance, title guarantee fee,
survey.
Yeah. The survey, daily interest charges, mortgage recording charges, title endorsements,
HOA, transfer fees,
yeah,
inspection fees.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the inspection fees.
Yeah. So that's most of them.
Right. So as you can see, there's a lot of charges other than just having your down payment.
Okay. So let's talk about asking the seller to cover some of those closing costs for the buyer. How does that work?
So as the buyer, you can ask the seller to cover some of those closing costs, but I think ultimately it depends on what you're going to offer them as a sales price to start with. So the seller is looking at their bottom line.
Yes. So let's say that the buyer is asking for, say, $3,500 to help cover their closing costs. It's important that if that is the route that they're going to take, that they understand a few things. So, for example, this week I had a buyer that was referred to me from a previous client, and they needed some help because they were a first-time home buyer, and they thought, well, we can have probably $5,000 to $7,000 saved up in order to help with that. And so in explaining to them that they had to have closing costs and the down payment, first they were considering a home that was in the USDA area. So when that happened, that's 0% down, right?
Right.
But then they're going to have closing cost. So we added that up. And then they thought, well, that's a little too far out. So we found something at the other end of town. Well, that one wasn't USDA. So for sure, the down payment's going to have to be put up, at the minimum 3.5%.
Right.
And then we thought about the closing costs. Well, in that example, that new builder, they cover some of the closing costs. So we talked about that. And then they said, well, we did see this house that's already been built. We really like that one. I said, okay, if we're going to go that route, then we need to think of a different opportunity, like a first-time home buyer where one of the lenders that I know can help give you a 0 down payment, but there's other things that factor in. So we
Right.
really had to look at the whole situation to understand what is the best thing and how can we go forward with them.
Okay. So, yeah, it's important to understand if you're going to need help with closing costs, then you need to be creative in the way that your agent handles the transaction in
Right.
order to find like the best solution. Because you don't want to go in there and lowball them to start with and then
Right.
be asking for
No.
closing costs on top of that.
No, because that's
And
what I explained to them.
yeah,
If you want to ask for closing costs, which that was an opportunity we thought of for the you can't really do that for the new build house, but for this one, so we're probably going to have to come in real close to asking price.
yeah, that's
know.
usually the case.
And if it's a multiple offer situation, it may even be above
Right.
asking price a little bit.
Yeah. It almost kind of stinks when you're in a multiple offer
Yeah.
situation
There's-
and you're needing closing costs.
Yeah, because you're really at a little bit of a disadvantage. However, if that's what you need, that's what you need.
Yeah. And then, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, and we'll move on to the next
Right.
property and find one that will agree to it. So,
I agree. So, yeah, that's important to the title company and the lender that they work together as you get closer to the closing day so we can make sure that all these fees that we talked about earlier are included in the closing statement and that then the title company, they'll send it out to the agent and allow the buyer, the opportunity to review all these fees that are in the closing cost before closing days.
Right. So we have the down payment that you have all worked out with your lender, and then all the closing costs as we discussed earlier. And then this will give you the overall picture for all the costs and the exact amounts that you'll need to bring to the closing table.
Right. And it is important that you and your agent review that closing statement when you get it from the title company to make sure that all the agreed upon things that you agreed in the contract are listed. So it's possible that something can be missed, such as an HOA fee or an inspection fee, maybe a survey. And it really causes a problem if you, after closing day, you've closed already, right? And then you say, well, what happened with this closing fee that, this wasn't paid? So it can be a little tricky.
Right. So, yes, although the lender and the title company are both reviewing it, it's also to have, it's good to have your agent and the seller review it as well, just in case something important's missed.
Right. So there's not any problems. But most of the time, everything is there. The agent's reviewed it. The title company is checking in. The lender's checking it. So usually everything is good and we're good to go.
Cool.
Well, that wraps it up for now. Next time, we'll be discussing another exciting real estate topic. Thank you for joining us and allowing us the opportunity to share the real estate process with all of you. If you have a topic you would like for us to cover, please email us at realtalkaggieland@gmail.com. As always, check out our other podcasts on iTunes and YouTube. Be sure to like us on Facebook. And when you have a real estate question, give us a call. Thanks for joining us on Real Estate Real Talk.